the meter towards them. So once it hits the meter, the direction determines who is responsible for the repairs. So this was our third, at least, maybe fourth. We kind of lost count, which is a little bit sad. But we found out about it this time because the town emailed us and said, hey, you're using water overnight, so you probably have a leak. And we were like, okay, this is the first time you've ever actually told us preemptively something's going on instead of getting, a $700 or $800 utility bill because of a leak. So we were really thankful for that. But the process of dealing with this is usually you get an outrageous bill, you panic, and you go, oh no, where is this? And you start trying to find, is it in the house, under the house, or in the yard? And those are usually our three places that we go. And every time, our searches have turned up nothing. So then we have to hire what's called a leak detector. And so they come with their special equipment, they hook up to your water pipe, and they pressurize it with CO2 or something else. And then they have a device, they have a couple different kinds, that allow them to amplify the sounds they hear in the yard. And basically what they pressurize your pipe with will whistle when it comes through the hole, the crack. So it's always kind of fun to watch these guys going through your yard with their device. Sometimes it looks kind of like a dome that they put on the ground. This time, he just looked like he was going around stabbing a really sharp stick in the ground. And we were like, what are you actually doing? But this stick has a microphone on the end. So he stabs it into the ground, and then he has his headphones on, and he can hear. And they're able to mark it within about a 3-foot circle or square, depending on if they like circles or squares, because they've done both, of where the leak is. And then it's up to you. So then it's digging holes, which our yard is red clay and rock. So not fun digging. This is not like at the beach where digging is easy. This is not fun digging. So this time, thankfully, it was the weekend that we had just gotten our first real amount of rain this summer. So the next Monday was oddly about 75 degrees that morning, and it was wet. And so Peter obviously has to work on Mondays, so I went and got our shovels. And I don't know if this happens in all houses, but in our house, every time we need to dig a hole, I realize we have the worst shovels ever. We do not have the proper equipment. And you would think after doing this 3 or 4 times, we would buy new shovels. We do have a pickaxe. We tried that. We have one of those really long, skinny shovels, a trench shovel. I knew you would know the name, which is helpful at a certain point, but not the best for scooping. It's like the worst for scooping. It's like using a fork to scoop liquid. It's just not super effective. I think we have one other shovel that's not a lot better than that one. We need just like a normal person shovel, and I don't know. I think we've only inherited random ones from you, so we don't have like the really effective tools. So thankfully we went out on the wet day, and I started digging, and it actually digs easily, and it was nice. And it got to where it was so soupy, I literally got like a big plastic cup from inside our house and just started scooping the mud out. Little did I know or realize that later, when it was time to put that stuff back in the hole, that wet red clay has now turned into a sun-baked, hardened pile of mud and rock and had to be broken up to put back in, but that's not about today. So once you dig the hole, you locate the pipe and the leak. You become really thankful that these guys are good at their job because it's right in the middle of the place they mark. They make it nice and easy. You remove the piece with the hole or crack. You put a PVC coupler on it. Only costs $8. Pretty easy. And then you fill in the hole. The leak detectors cost $400 to $500. And they're at your house for all of 25 minutes. So if you're looking for a field to get into for work, this is a very lucrative one, apparently, because those guys are making a good bit of money. But while digging and removing rocks, I was like, I am living in a sermon illustration right now. So that's what we're going to dive into. So Peter, if you can put up our first pipe picture. There we go. So that is the pipe after we've cut out the piece that had a crack. And as you can see, it's a very teeny tiny part of the pipe that had to be removed. This time, the crack in it was so small we couldn't find it at first. It was almost pinhole size. But when we were digging the hole, you could see it spewing, and it was doing enough that it was causing issues. So Peter will always just kind of remove that piece, and then we put a coupler on. That white piece that you can see is part of the coupling device that's going to go on, and it basically marries the two sides together and creates a seal, and water can't get out anymore. So what's amazing to me about this is the rock that caused the damage was very, very small. It was actually not a big rock at all. And this PVC pipe, I think the size is 3/4 inch. It's pretty strong. It's not like you could break it on your knee or you could somehow just crack it for fun. It's a strong pipe. And yet, this teeny tiny rock in the right place over a length of time with pressure will cause a crack and damage. Peter, am I supposed to be able to click my own pictures? I can't see my pictures. I'll let you click to the next one. Or do you want me to just push on blank squares? See what happens? I have no arrow. You got it? Okay. All right, so this is part of the pile of rocks. The main pile is what you see kind of cut off to the side. But these were the bigger rocks. The amount of rocks that we dug out was insane. And our dog is a German Shepherd Poodle mix. We also call her a horse because she's so big, but she loves rocks. Rocks are her babies. So every time we dug up a rock and we tossed it in the ground, she thought it was a present for her. And so she would take it and she would run off with it and then come back and wait for the next rock. So she was having a great day as we were doing this. But this is the pile of the big rocks that we dug out. And Peter, if you'll go to the next one, that's the biggest one compared to my foot. So this is the biggest rock that came out of the hole, which you would think, surely this big rock is part of the problem. The rock that was at the pipe where the leak was only about 2 inches. It was very, very small. And that tiny rock was creating a leak that was letting about 10 gallons an hour go through that tiny hole. And unfortunately, we live in a town that is building a new water treatment plant. And so our water is extremely expensive, and our sewer costs twice what our water cost. So by the time we got the email letting us know what had happened and estimating our bill, it was already a $700 utility bill. So this little bitty piece was causing damage, and yet it seems really harmless. This little rock seems harmless. No, I didn't take a picture of that little rock, but you can imagine it. You have a good imagination. Our hearts are the same way. It can be easy to think we can find the big problems, right? That big rock. I was honestly really happy when I was digging the hole and I got to that big rock because it was a really big thing to get out of the way all at once instead of scooping with my little cup while I'm trying to get things out. And I was disgusting. I was covered in red clay because if you've ever dug a hole before, one of the most frustrating parts is the bottom of the hole keeps getting further and further away from you. So the height difference starts getting really annoying because you can no longer stand normally and bend over. You get down on your knees. and you're now leaning over hoping that you're not face planting into the mud. It becomes more and more difficult. But when I found that giant piece, I was like, yes, progress. Let's get this out. We can move on. And it can be easy in our hearts the same way to be able to identify the big rocks, the big things, and deal with it. You can get it out of the way. It's all in one piece. It's easy to get rid of. But we can miss the small things that might seem harmless in comparison because they're so small. But the problem is, just like with my pipe, over time, little things can create problems and can create damage. And it's not just the big things that can cause destruction. It can be the little things too. So Peter, if you'll show the next picture. This is our front yard from our porch. We do have some bald spots, so you'll have to forgive those. But aside from the bald spots, you would not know by looking at our yard that we're prone to water leaks. There's no way to identify that. And every single time we had a leak, there wasn't a wet spot in the yard, because that's what everybody always says. It's like, go look in your yard and see if there's a wet spot. It's like, there's nothing. There's nothing. I think a lot of it's because we have so much rock and red clay. It's a little different. It's porous, and we've got a bit of a hill. But it's easy to look at it from the outside and think everything looks fine. And you don't know what's happening below the surface. And the leak that we experienced with this little bitty rock wasn't big enough to cause disaster that affected the whole yard. It didn't cause a puddle. It didn't cause a geyser. You know, there wasn't something shooting up in the yard that was showing us, hey, there's a problem right here. So that meant that without there being a consequence of the leak, we didn't know it was there. Without there being, in this case, the town of Clayton being on top of it and emailing us before it continued, or a really bad bill to let us know what was happening, we wouldn't have known. And it would have just continued until water's really powerful. I don't know. Maybe it would have made the hole bigger over time. Maybe it could have caused more and more problems. But it's easy to think that if we aren't in a crisis and everything looks okay and feels okay, that we're okay. But the truth is that we all have small rocks. We all have small things in our hearts that we need to be willing to go through the process of getting out. They're below the surface, but at any point, they could impede the flow of living water. While we're digging out these rocks and we're looking at our pipe and we're thinking about it, I was like, oh, wow. These things could stop the flow of water from going to my house. If it damaged the pipe well enough, it could actually prohibit us from even getting water. These little things, these little problems, if left unattended, can do the same thing. We can get to where our heart is no longer receiving what it's supposed to be receiving because there's a piece of damage. There's something that's causing damage that we're not aware of. Peter, oh, you added a button. Good job. You're amazing. All right, so this picture shows this year's leak, and then the circle with the red X shows the last leak, which was only 4 years ago. Do you see the proximity? Can I tell you how annoying it was to know it was this close? Part of me was like, why didn't we just start digging in the last place? But in reality, digging through that much red clay and dirt, nobody wants to do that. Like, it's just not going to happen. But even though we dealt with that last leak, and even though we removed all the rocks, and we left that place repaired and healthy and good, there was still another one that came along the way. And again, I think that's the way that we can be too in our hearts, where we need to keep a vigilant eye on our meter, if you want to call it that. Because we live in a broken world. My pipes are in a rock-filled yard. And there will probably, I really hope not, I hope we've reached our limit now, but there could be another leak along the way. And if we're not vigilant at watching our meters, at paying attention to our bill, and thankfully now the town monitors that digitally, then we could find ourselves once again dealing with the same thing, but it could be potentially worse. But it's one of those things that as Christians, I'm reminded that even though I've dealt with certain things in my heart, and even though I've taken care of certain areas that need to be taken care of, because I live in a broken world, there's still going to be hurts, and there's still going to be things that come along the way. And actually, God is so kind and so gracious that he doesn't show us all the rocks at the same time. Because if he did, we would be so overwhelmed. Can you imagine if we came to God and we were like, search my heart and know me and show me anything that offends you, and he was like, here's your list. We would be overwhelmed. We would be probably prone to thinking, well, I'll never be able to fix all of this, and more likely to give up than to try. So he is so very gracious and he's so very kind in that he does a work in us little by little. And he doesn't jump on all of our things at one time. He doesn't expect us to fix all of our rocks and our leaks all at one time. He actually allows us to go through the process with him. And our job, our part of it, is to let him work in our hearts and to have a soft heart before him, to be willing to let him have everything laid bare before him and say, search it again. Like, thank you for what you did already, and let's do more, basically, allowing him to do more. I love this verse in Ezekiel chapter 36. 36 verses 26 through 27. And I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender, responsive heart. I will put my spirit in you so that you will follow my decrees and be careful to obey my regulations. Again, he's so gracious and he's so kind that he's not asking us to replace our own hearts. He's not expecting us to work miracles and work wonders in our own hearts. He's saying, I will put in you a new heart. I will replace the stony and give you a soft, responsive heart. The only thing that we really need to do is kind of in that bottom line that even there he says he's going to give you his spirit so that you will be able to follow and obey his decrees. Obedience, willingness, those are the things he asks for. And he does the rest. He's the one who actually has the ability to replace a stubborn heart with a soft heart, to replace a rock of stone with a rock of stone, a heart of stone with a heart of flesh. He's the only one that can do it. And I find so much comfort in knowing that the hard things, he does. And he has. The price that Jesus paid on the cross so that we could be saved, healed, and delivered has already been done. The hardest has already been done. And as Christians, I think that we tend to have that feeling of like, oh, I got saved, Jesus changed my heart, he lives inside of me, everything is good. And to a degree that is true. That is certainly true. But there is still work that he wants to do in our hearts. And there's still more freedom that he wants us to walk in. And there's a fullness of joy that he wants us to be able to walk in that comes through that process of him refining our hearts, softening our hearts, and finding our leaks, if you will. So my encouragement this morning is to check your meter. Ask the Lord to examine your heart and point out any rocks that could cause problems. And if you know of one already, seek healing. pray and ask the Lord. Speak to somebody in ministry, a trusted friend. One of the most encouraging things that I found from our Freedom event with Mike and Ann was when they pointed out that we need community and we need each other. And their illustration was the way that before Jesus rose Lazarus from the grave, he had the people who were there roll away the stone. And then when he rose him, he told them to unwrap him. He was bound in a way that he couldn't unbind himself, because he would have been wrapped basically probably shoulder to feet, because I think they had a separate head covering. But he would have been wrapped almost like a mummy would have, to where he couldn't unwrap himself. There are going to be times where we can pray and be alone with Jesus, and he deals with what needs to be dealt with, and it can be just the two of us. And then there are times where we need that community of believers. We need someone else who's there that can partner with Jesus to help release the binds, those things that are inhibiting us, if you'll call it that. So, super short and sweet message this morning, but I hope that it was a good illustration and a helpful point. I know that the Lord has so much more for our hearts than even what we desire for our own. And I would encourage you really to create a habit of regularly laying your heart before the Lord and letting him not only examine it, but letting him hear your heart and know you. You know, I think sometimes we think that we should only let him see the good parts, or we should only vocalize the good things. And the reality is, if you read the book of Psalms, you'll see we're allowed to pour out our hearts to him, complaints, frustrations, and thanksgiving. We should pour out our hearts before him and trust him with it. And thankfully, he's paid the price for our healing. The town of Clayton reimbursed us for a whopping $23. They said they would reimburse us for more for this month, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, out of our $508, we got $23 reimbursed. So thankfully with Jesus, he paid it all. It's been paid. It's been done. It's yours. It's yours for the taking. But it is a process, and it's one that it's amazing. You know, in life we have things that it's like all about the process and not about the end product. But with God, I think it's both. It's all about the process, and the end product is being in heaven with him, with perfect union and community. So it actually is both with him. But the process matters a lot to him. So much. If it didn't, he could have skipped this whole earth part and just made us in heaven. He could have skipped this entire process. But no. No, but he chose to go through this process with us because he values it so much. And he values your heart so much that the process, the pain, and all of the things that come with it were worth it. And that means a lot to me. That really hits my heart. So I'll pray for you, and then we'll be dismissed. Heavenly Father, I just thank you that you care so much about our hearts. You care so much about the process of healing us. And you've called us into walking in fellowship with you in full freedom and healing and breakthrough. Lord, I thank you that you're willing to go through the process of identifying the rocks and the leaks. And you don't get tired of dealing with it with us. You don't become impatient or frustrated or disappointed. You're such a faithful, gentle Father that's just ready to help. and walk through it with us. And Lord, I just pray that you would continue to draw us into that relationship with you and draw us into that place where our hearts are open and laid bare, where it's natural for us to be completely open before you with nothing hidden, nothing on reserve, nothing held back. And Lord, I thank you for bringing healing to us, for removing the rocks, for restoring the flow. Lord, thank you that you want us to have abundance of joy. You desire us to walk in freedom and fellowship with you, and you desire us to be able to impart that to others who so desperately need to experience freedom and healing in you. Lord, I pray that you would just continue to reveal to us how to walk in this, how to apply it, and how to share it with others. And we just praise you and thank you, Lord, for all that you've done and all that you are. In Jesus' name, amen.